Hello, welcome back. This is Outnumbered Overtime. Welcome. We're glad you're joining us. Some of you with your morning coffee and donuts, and some of you with your lunch, because we do get a lot of tweets, David Webb, that people are sitting down at their lunch hour to watch us on Outnumbered and Outnumbered Overtime. So try not to say anything that's going to make them sick.
Nah, well, I'm sorry, Hillary Clinton.
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry about that one. Something came up in the throat of somebody somewhere.
So we began the conversation today on our TV version talking about 100 days left till Election Day. Unbelievable. Here we are.
Thank God.
Conventions are over.
Yeah, this is now the general election. And as I said, the pivot now for both candidates strategically is presenting their case, presenting the vision for the future of America, presenting specifics. You're right, Kennedy. You said you go to Hillary Clinton's website, you can read all these vague specifics. I like that one, by the way, because that's what they're giving us.
It seems like she's saying something.
It almost gets you there, but not quite.
And then you realize, like, there's a whole lot of nothing, because she doesn't talk about how she's going to pay for it, and it's just a grab bag of free giveaways that cost us so dearly we'll never be able to afford it.
So here's what Donald Trump does to counter her. He has great advisors, including people I work with, like Stephen Moore on the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. When you've got guys like Art Laffer, Larry Kudlow, Stephen Moore, and others on your side, people trying to help you, start laying out your policy platforms more specifically. Use the web. You know what you do? You tweet out. Go, Donald Trump, tweet, go read my tax plan. Those are the things you can do to use social media to drive it.
Here's 0.5 from my tax plan.
You know what's so bad? It feels like the psychology of the country has almost changed. People go into the voting booth saying, what can the government do for me?
Right.
And I have friends in Caracas, and they're saying, you know what, we sit here and we watch what's going on in the United States. We always thought, yes, you know, government, you do that. Go ahead, you take care of that. You do this for us. All of a sudden, the government's at their back door.
I just read an article
and they're astonished about the success of Bernie Sanders.
Astonished. There's no buns for McDonald's burgers in Venezuela right now.
Yeah, because of lack of ingredients.
It's crazy.
I thought it was because they were on the anti-gluten bandwagon.
Yeah. But you know, look who the richest woman in Venezuela is. It's Chavez's daughter. And it's the Paris Hilton of Venezuela with her little puppies and you know, little pocket dogs.
That's a thing.
$4.6 billion
in assets. So here's the thing. Also, people in Venezuela telling me that they're building, the government officials building mansions made entirely out of marble.
Right.
Marble. So people think, you know, socialism, all government all the time. Yeah, exactly. That it's, you know, socialism is great for you. It's wonderful.
No.
It is a dominating economic model for the entire world.
Yeah.
Capitalism is a rarity in comparison. And, you know, when is Bernie Sanders going to say, you know, what's going on in Venezuela is bad?
Or Sean Penn. Look, capitalism as a form as an economic system has lifted more people out of poverty directly within those countries or as a result of aid from countries that were successful like the United States. And to your point, what they've essentially created in Venezuela is serfdom. We now have the castles being built, the moats being set around them in some form, and serfs. The rest of the people are serfs with no bread for their McDonald's hamburger.
Right.
And, you know, we've got people hunting dogs, pigeons, and cats for food.
Let me bring it this way. You guys have talked about it, too. Margaret Thatcher said, you know, socialism is about envy, and envy doesn't build anything. It destroys. Yeah. Envy destroys.
She also
doesn't build.
Yeah, but she also said the problem with it is at a certain point you run out of spending other people's money.
Yeah.
I think that's a simplest way to explain why socialism is so, you know, delusional. I think it's more what surprises me is the people I talk to, they call into my radio show. A lot of them are my age, around my age, and they don't really understand what socialism means. Like, I think it's been packaged in a really strange way by Bernie Sanders. I think when you get right down to it, I'm like, okay, so are you willing to give 90% of your paycheck with the illusion that the government is better at using your money than you are?
Listen, I'm so glad you said 90% because again,
that's what he said.
People in Venezuela, 90%.
Okay, but
that's their tax rate.
Here's the thing about socialism to that point is the left has a vested interest in making college cheap or free for most people because they are essentially factories that churn out many socialists without questioning.
Right.
And that's why there are so many safe spaces, because you are no longer allowed to use your free speech to question the ideology that you're being spoon-fed.
So here's a dog whistle to the universities. We won't touch your tax-exempt status. We won't touch your nonprofit status. You can keep gouging the middle class and American families
and raising tuition
$25K.
All right, let me get a couple viewer comments in. This is from our Outnumbered Overtime on our website. Long Islanders on this subject says, can this young woman transfer to another school? To your point, EMAC. I don't think this is a school I'd want to be a part of. What happened to free speech?
Right.
James E. Johnston has weighed in saying, attend the diversity training, which she's been mandated to do, and tell them that in order to be diverse, they must listen to her point of view.
That's a great point.
I'll go to that. If she wants me to, I will go to that diversity training with her.
Also, diversity is not just a one-way street. Again, like I remember when I was at college, I was like, well, what about being open-minded to the other side, to conservative values, to Republicans? But it's just a one-way street with leftist universities. They just want, like you said, the socialist agenda to be. But it's really petrifying. I mean, I know a lot of people in college that now are coming. They're like, oh, maybe you were right about some of the things you were saying when you were younger. Because once you get old enough and you're in the workforce and you're paying taxes, automatically your perspective changes. But I really think that Bernie Sanders, he scared me the most. He scared me more than Hillary Clinton.
And there's something so chillingly wrong about him. He's campaigned as anti-establishment. He's been around since 1990. That's
and
number one.
Nothing. And it changed nothing.
He got all the big government stuff that he
I think the most egregious thing about Bernie Sanders is when he was on the Veterans Committee, when he was the chair, you know, the VA scandal just blossomed. There was no oversight, and you had people dying.
Right.
Yes.
And he, you know, and no one brought that up.
Right.
I shouldn't say no one brought it, but they didn't bring him up. They didn't press him on that the way they really should have, because, you know, I understand it's easy to be an ideologue, and it's very easy to have this comfortable ideology that, you know, will never be put into place, or it wouldn't in any other year. He got very, very close this year. But, you know, where there's an actual cause and effect relationship, that's where you should be held accountable, and he really wasn't.
He was not. And that was our example of single payer, right?
Yeah.
Which Vermont rejected.
Yeah, and that was, what's the guy's name from the New York Times? Paul Krugman. You know, with the
he's an idiot.
Yeah, of course he's an idiot. And he's the one. He's the one who originally said that the ACA should be based on the VA, and we should be moving to a single-payer system because of the success of the VA. And it's like, do you really want your relatives to be dying, waiting in line for ration health care, which is essentially where it ends?
Art and things look good. By the way, to your point, if you think about the illegality and what happened in Vermont with single-payer, a study done that proved that it would not work, done by a Boston group, was what started that. And I worked with a number of the people who exposed that. Yeah. And the governor up there should be held, LePage should be held and called to account for this, because it fails and they still try to resell it to the people.
But the arrogance of Bernie Sanders, that he thinks that the foundations that this country was built on, and the foundations that we love, that our founding fathers gave us, that he himself, he is the one that wants to remake the fabric of what it means to be an American. How dare you?
Right, exactly.
And I still am feeling the repercussions of this, because he has somehow brainwashed enough millennials into thinking this is the way it's going to happen.
But I don't. Okay, but what I don't understand is, you know, there's a similar strain in libertarianism that there is in this progressive socialism, and it's that, you know, government has failed. Therefore, but the conclusion is different. You know, therefore, with libertarians, it's self-reliance, and it is no longer reliance on government. But with socialism, it's more reliance on government, which is so illogical for something that has failed you utterly in so many ways. Why you would want more of it.
But go back to what you said earlier about the colleges and universities. You want to create a class of people. You have a generation of millennials that did not grow up with communism, and they've seen the failures of socialism, but they don't recognize it because it's being
they haven't lived through the failures.
They haven't lived through the failures.
Go ahead.
But it's being repackaged now as this all-encompassing outcome. They're selling you envy of others. They're selling you outcome when the outcome cannot be guaranteed.
Right. And can I bring it full circle, because Bernie Sanders' wife basically bankrupted a college in Vermont,
that was
loading
my
it up with
favorite
debt.
story.
She made a decision on expansion of a university that cost it its existence.
Right.
This is the successful woman you want.
Right. Based on his policies.
She's an advisor.
She's an
advisor for him.
It's really petrifying, though, because he gained a lot of traction, and I meet so many people, young people all the time, that are Bernie Sanders supporters, and they really, I say this as someone who talks to many, they don't understand what they're talking about.
Right.
When I immediately say, your paycheck, quick, 90% of it is going to go to the government, they're going to do something better with it than you are. They're like, oh, wait, that's what that means? And that's
and you don't get it back.
You don't
get it back, right. Can I tell you a funny moment with the convention in Philadelphia? The Bernie Sanders protesters were saying about the fence that surrounded, tear down this wall. Did you see that?
That's funny.
They were quoting Reagan.
Okay, but I will tell you this.
Want to build a wall.
I spent a lot of time with the California delegation, and they were in full revolt. The one thing I did appreciate about the Bernie supporters is they were not going away quietly. They were holding up their no TPP signs and their WikiLeaks signs and everything else. And the Hillary supporters in the California delegation were holding up their signs so high, trying to physically block the Bernie supporter signs from view. And they also had tweeted out, Matt Iglesias had tweeted out responses that the DNC had created for these Bernie chants. But I totally
been going on at conventions.
I know, but I appreciated the rabble-rousery here, especially when the Democratic establishment was trying to sell this as a unified party, since Bernie sold out and endorsed Hillary, and that was not the case.
Can I speak to Democrats for a moment and liberals just briefly?
Yeah.
Understand that while the Republican Party can be fought by the Democrats and by the Bernie Sanders crowd, they'll never change the Republicans into the Socialist Party. But you can change the Democrat Party into the Socialist Party. So the Bernie Sanders crowd, to all of you Democrats out there, Blue Dog Democrats, Daniel Patrick Moynihan Democrats, Kennedy Democrats, and so on, Reagan Democrats, your party is gone because the progressive movement and the socialist movement has changed it. You've lost your party.
That's true.
We will leave it there, David Webb. Thank you. That's it for Outnumbered Overtime. We'll see you back on TV tomorrow at noon Eastern. Thank you.
Thank you.